Have you ever wondered how rain can become even more dangerous than a wildfire? Right now, that is exactly what is happening in Colorado. After weeks of fighting massive wildfires, emergency officials are now facing a new disaster. Flash floods and fast-moving mudslides are threatening communities already devastated by fire. The National Weather Service has issued another flash flood emergency, calling it a particularly dangerous situation, one of the highest warning levels they can give. This is not just another storm. It is a life-threatening emergency unfolding across the burn scars left behind by the Aspen Acres fire and the Gold Mountain fire. Heavy thunderstorms moved across southwestern Colorado, dumping intense rainfall over land that had already been severely damaged by wildfire. Emergency managers warned that floodwaters, mud, and massive debris were already racing down steep mountain slopes, cutting off roads and creating extremely dangerous conditions. Communities near Beulah, Wetmore, San Isabel, and Highway 165 were among the hardest hit. Local fire departments urged residents to immediately move to higher ground and never attempt to drive through flooded roads. Officials reported multiple landslides, roads becoming impassable, and rapidly changing conditions throughout the evening. Unlike ordinary flash floods, these disasters happen with almost no warning. Entire hillsides can suddenly collapse, sending walls of mud, rocks, and burned trees downhill within minutes. The danger became so serious that weather forecasters upgraded the emergency to a particularly dangerous situation, a designation reserved only for the most extreme and life-threatening flood events. What makes this situation even more alarming is that the wildfire itself is no longer the biggest threat. The fire may be slowly coming under control, but the land it destroyed has become a deadly trap every time heavy rain falls. In the next part, we will explain why just a few inches of rain can suddenly create catastrophic mudslides after a wildfire, and why scientists say the greatest danger often begins only after the flames are gone. At first, it may seem strange that rain could create a disaster worse than the wildfire itself. But scientists say this is one of the most dangerous stages after any major wildfire. Before a wildfire, forests act like giant natural sponges. Trees, grass, and healthy soil absorb rainwater and slow its movement down the mountainside. Roots hold the soil together, preventing landslides even during heavy storms. A wildfire changes everything. When intense heat burns through a forest, it destroys the vegetation that protects the ground. The roots die, the organic layer disappears, and the surface of the soil often becomes water resistant. Instead of soaking into the ground, rainwater rushes across the burned landscape almost instantly. That is exactly what happened around the Aspen Acres fire. The wildfire has burned more than 100,000 acres since late June. Although firefighters have contained much of the fire, the enormous burn scar now covers steep mountain terrain that is extremely vulnerable whenever thunderstorms develop. As powerful summer storms moved into the region, between 1 and 3 inches of rain fell across parts of southern Colorado. Under normal conditions, that amount of rain might not cause widespread damage. But over a burned landscape, it can trigger a deadly chain reaction. Water begins racing downhill, picking up loose ash, soil, rocks, and fallen trees. Within minutes, the flow grows larger and heavier, turning into a fast-moving wall of mud and debris. The United States Geological Survey explains that debris flows are far more destructive than ordinary flooding. They can move faster than 35 miles per hour and carry massive boulders, tree trunks, and even vehicles. Almost anything in their path can be swept away. This is why emergency officials repeatedly warned residents not to underestimate the danger. Driving through floodwater is especially deadly because the water may hide deep mud, washed out pavement, or powerful debris flows underneath. A road that appears safe can disappear in seconds. For people living near recent wildfire burn scars, even a short thunderstorm can quickly become a life-threatening emergency. And with more storms still expected across Colorado, officials fear the danger is far from over. In the next part, we will look at what happened on the ground as emergency crews responded to landslides, flooded highways, and rapidly changing conditions while another round of storms approached. As the storms intensified, emergency crews across southern Colorado found themselves racing against time. The first reports came from communities near Beulah. where heavy rain quickly transformed mountain roads into dangerous rivers of mud and debris. Large sections of Highway 165 became nearly impossible to travel, as rocks, fallen trees, and thick mud covered the pavement. The Beulah Fire Protection and Ambulance District issued an urgent warning on social media, telling everyone to move to higher ground immediately and never attempt to drive across flooded roads. Officials stressed that conditions were changing by the minute, and that waiting too long could become a fatal mistake. Nearby, the Fremont County Sheriff's Office also warned residents to stay away from affected areas. Several roads were closed because floodwaters and landslides had made them unsafe for both residents and emergency vehicles. Fortunately, no fatalities had been reported during the latest flooding, but officials emphasized that the situation remained extremely dangerous because additional thunderstorms were expected later in the day. The National Weather Service continued to monitor both the Aspen Acres burn scar and the Gold Mountain burn scar, where even another brief period of heavy rainfall could trigger new debris flows without warning. This is exactly why weather forecasters use the term flash flood emergency instead of a standard flood warning. A flash flood emergency is issued only when catastrophic flooding is already happening or is expected within minutes. It is reserved for the most severe situations where lives are in immediate danger and people must act without delay. When the warning also includes the phrase particularly dangerous situation, it signals an even higher level of concern. These rare alerts are issued only when forecasters believe the threat is extraordinary and immediate action is necessary to survive. Meteorologists warned that the Colorado monsoon pattern remains active, meaning repeated afternoon thunderstorms could continue to develop over the burned mountains during the coming days. That means communities near wildfire burn scars may face multiple rounds of flooding long after the flames have been brought under control. In the final part, we will examine why disasters like this are becoming more common across the American West and what experts believe communities must do to reduce the growing threat in the future. The disaster unfolding in Colorado is part of a growing pattern that experts have been warning about for years. Across the American West, larger wildfires are leaving behind enormous burn scars that remain dangerous long after the flames are extinguished. As climate conditions become hotter and drier, wildfire seasons are becoming longer. At the same time, intense summer thunderstorms are producing heavier bursts of rainfall over landscapes that can no longer absorb water. That combination creates the perfect conditions for catastrophic flash floods and debris flows. Scientists say many people mistakenly believe the danger ends once a wildfire is contained. In reality, the risk often continues for months or even years, until vegetation grows back and the soil begins to recover. Every significant storm has the potential to trigger another emergency. The Aspen Acres fire is a clear example of this growing challenge. More than 100,000 acres of forest were burned, leaving steep mountain slopes exposed. Even though firefighters have made significant progress in containing the fire, the landscape itself remains unstable. Emergency managers are continuing to monitor rainfall around both the Aspen Acres and Gold Mountain burn scars. Residents living near these areas have been urged to stay alert, closely follow weather warnings, and prepare to evacuate immediately if another flash flood emergency is issued. Officials also remind drivers that most flood-related deaths happen inside vehicles. It only takes a small amount of moving water to sweep a car off the road, especially when that water is carrying rocks, mud, and fallen trees. For now, the good news is that no fatalities have been reported from the latest flooding. But with additional storms expected, authorities warn that the threat is far from over. Colorado's emergency is a powerful reminder that nature's most dangerous disasters do not always end when the fire is out. Sometimes the greatest danger begins only after the smoke has cleared. As weather patterns continue to change, communities across the West may face more situations where wildfire and flooding become part of the same disaster. If you found this report informative, subscribe to the channel for verified updates on major weather events, natural disasters, and breaking news across the United States. Thank you for watching. Stay informed and most importantly, stay safe.